Well, kia ora, tēnā koutou katoa. It's Rachel Froggatt here, Secretary General of the International Working Group on Women in Sport, and of course here in New Zealand, Chief Executive of Women in Sport Aotearoa. And we are attempting a bit of an experiment today. Today's the first time we are interviewing two people at the same time and catching up with the team from Badminton New Zealand. So I'd like to say a massive hello to Joe Hitchcock, Chief Executive, and Christina Yu, Board Member.
Kia ora, thanks Rachel.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. This is going to be our running gag, as we're going to talk over the top of each other. So, but we thought it would be amazing to catch up with you both, because I think that you guys have had an amazing journey through COVID-19, dealing with, the challenges that we've all been facing, but also what I think is amazing is really holding the line with regards to the work that you're doing around gender equity in your sport, and also how you engage with your diverse communities. Your participant base is very diverse. So I'm going to start with you, Joe. So you reached a significant milestone. You made a big announcement during lockdown with regards to your board. Do you want to talk us through that?
Sure, yeah. Look, we're really excited to meet the gender equity goals set by Sport New Zealand, and I guess also more importantly for us, reflected in our values of diversity and where we are at with Badminton New Zealand and valuing diversity within gender. And I think we're definitely throwing a little bit of a spanner in the works, as with the whole entire world with the COVID-19 situation. But really pleased, I think, with our continued commitment in that space, and we're really targeting and knew with our annual general meeting coming up that it was a critical point for us to continue that piece of work through. And with the fantastic candidates that we did have, and we're very lucky that Christina was part of that process, and the support of our members and our wider badminton community, we managed to go through that process and appoint Christina and meet that threshold and get better, I think, inside that space.
And Christina, obviously you joined the board for the first time in March, so you're pretty new as a board member for badminton. But can you tell us a little bit about your governance journey and what you're doing now for the organisation?
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. Very exciting. So my governance experience started with a charity board called Auckland Girls Choir. We were elected by the parents of the choir members. I was a treasurer in there, and because it's a charity board, we pretty much do a lot of volunteer work, and at the same time leading the choir into a direction that we thinking is what we set the goals for the choir. So that was my first experience, and I was on that board for 3 years. Fantastic experience, and also I feel very valued also as a mom of in the choir as well. And then after I joined New Zealand Herald, Chinese New Zealand Herald, I become involved in the board. But because this is a business board, so we are quite different from the charity board. There was a little challenge for me at the start, but after I get used to this position, we learned in the corporate area, which we have business decisions and business directions, as well as keeping the community in our minds. And then I was very lucky also to join the New Market Business Association as a board member. In that area is our local business association. I contributed as a diverse representative as well, and bringing a lot of thinking and different ideas onto the board, which shaped New Market, this area, into a diverse environment, which I'm very proud. And also, I feel very, very privileged to join Badminton New Zealand. I see that as the highlight of my life, and I keep myself improving in this area as well. So in this board, as you can see, I see myself as two sides. One is represent the board diversity, the Asian community, and at the same time, I'm a female representative, which contribute on the other side as well.
And it's such an interesting thing in itself, a little bit off the questions we talked about, but you know, being a woman and then also being representative of the Asian community is still a little bit unique within sports organisations. And I wonder, is that something you've seen before? Do you have friends or colleagues who are in similar positions, or are you forging new ground?
To be honest, I haven't interacted with anyone like this before. And personally, I feel very proud. And thanks to Joe in Badminton New Zealand. And nowadays, when I walk out, interact with people, I feel I'm not just carry a flag as a female board member, but I'm carrying, you know, bringing a diversity, and quite often says, oh, do you, you know, be the voice of us, and can you do this and that? I said, well, firstly, I'll listen. And of course, all this will become part of our strategy and thinking in the future. So, it is a very unique experience for me.
Well, it's I've heard this saying said a few times, you know, that a board should be representative of the people that it represents. And I think that, Joe, you know, that's something you and I have talked about quite a few times. And your participant base is incredibly diverse. You know, maybe explain to everybody sort of actually who participates in badminton.
Sure, yeah, look, we're really lucky. We probably have one of the most diverse ranges of participant groups in sport in New Zealand, and we see that as a fantastic strength. And, you know, Christina reflects that in terms of her experiences and her expertise that she brings to the board. But if you look across in the badminton facilities and the halls and the competitions and the events that we have, you'll see a very different picture than you will see down at a rugby field or a netball court. We are a largely Asian base, but there's still really strong participation from Pākehā, Māori, Pacific Island. And I think what's really important to remember is that the Asian demographic is huge. The continuity is massive. So we really try and celebrate that as much as we possibly can. And we believe that it brings tremendous value to what we're trying to achieve as an organisation, but also in terms of the experiences that people have in our sport. The other side of it really is really around the changing face of New Zealand and the migrant community that comes in as well. So provides a special opportunity for us to inspire Kiwis to love badminton for life by making sure that we provide them a really safe and enjoyable experience when they have a racket in their hand.
And just purely by nature of the diversity of your participants, you know, achieving gender equity, you know, you've often said to me, it's without even a second thought. It's just part of the values of the organisation. Would you say that was right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think gender equity and diversity again is a core value. It's bedded in our thinking from the start of every base. It's a foundational sort of piece. So when we think about governance, you know, it's really important at that level. But then for us, it flows right through the organisation. And again, you know, I think we're lucky as a sport where we serve all genders, and therefore it's important that our governance, our coaches, our staff, anyone that's connected with badminton reflects the population that we're trying to serve.
And Christina, you're very well connected, obviously, into the Asian community in New Zealand. Can you tell us a little bit about why it's so important to have representation on the board, but also what are the unique needs of an Asian participant? You know, what do people in other sports organisations need to think about when trying to attract Asian participants?
From badminton itself, badminton is a growing sport. So we already have a strong base of Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Malaysian players, and also good growth in the Indian community. So we trying to reflect the people it is trying, the trying to support and work with. And I am very proud that when I'm in a boardroom, I'm bringing the diversity of thinking and the experience into that. So for our board, our focus is young people, targeted communities, and partnership and collaboration. So by working with diverse communities, make the Badminton New Zealand stronger.
And I think we would be obviously remiss if we didn't talk to you both about COVID-19 and the impact that has had on badminton and the challenges we've had in New Zealand. You know, the partnership between a chief executive and the board is critical, you know, in times of crisis. So maybe from each of you, maybe starting with you, Joe, can you tell us about the journey you've been on and the challenges you've faced?
Sure, yeah. Look, I think I've personally been tremendously lucky, and I think the badminton community and certainly the team and staff at Badminton New Zealand have been really, really lucky, because we do have an amazing board. We have a very set and established board who are comfortable in their role, and I think understand who we are as an organisation, but also understand the badminton community. And therefore, I think our journey has been quite settled through that process. It's been around trying to make really difficult decisions with limited information that is often changing in a really complex sort of scenario. But I know personally for me, it's been an area where we have really needed that diversity of thought, and with the board in place that we have, we've been lucky enough to have that. And that's from a range of backgrounds and experiences that people can bring to the table. And that sort of smoothed, I think, some of those rougher edges that COVID has created for sport organisations. And look, a lot of sport organisations have really, really struggled. It has been incredibly hard, not only, I think, dealing with COVID as your own organisation, but then providing support, insight and guidance to your community, specific to your sport as well. And where we've seen and needed to step in the most, I think, is where organisations haven't had that governance and organisational connection and bond, that's strong enough. So, for us, very, very fortunate in that space. And a huge, I think, part of that is Hetty Van Hale, our chair of our board, and the environment and culture that the board has established that celebrates diversity and celebrates having challenging conversations about trying to get things right.
And Christina, you had a kind of trial by fire. You just joined the board. You'd only been in place for, I think, possibly a week when the true impact of COVID became aware to everybody. What's the experience been like from your perspective?
Yeah, Rachel, you're quite right. When I joined, and it's not long as the COVID-19 happened. So as a new board member, at one hand, I took a lot of time trying to learn a lot of things about Badminton New Zealand. And Joe is a brilliant CEO, to be honest. I can't say enough thank you to Joe. He provides so much information to us just before each of our board meeting. The resources, the information provide is just adding on a transparent and easy, especially for a new board member like me to read and understanding in that. So on one side is for me to understand Badminton New Zealand. On the other side is how do we face in the COVID-19 situation together. So I found the board is in a very good environment. We have a very respected and highly experienced chairman, Hetty. So she guided us into that. So Joe probably agrees, we adjusted our board meetings. So used to be in a frequency, and then to cope with to facing a challenge, we actually make it a shorter but more communication together, because we have to make decisions step by step, which I think is brilliant. And the board members working together, all bringing different ideas. We don't always agree on things. We do, challenge when we need to, which is quite good. Yeah, I think the joint force together make us stronger in the board.
Well, would you believe that we're actually nearly out of time? So I'm going to ask you one last question to both of you, and really it's for those people watching that are still dealing with, the impacts of COVID-19. If there was one thing that you have learned, or one piece of advice that you would give to people, dealing with this, what would that be?
Joe, would you like to start first?
Look, that's a really tough question, because I think everyone deals with such a unique situation in their own way. But look, what I've found to be really beneficial is to be selfish, is to make sure that you look after yourself first. Because if you're not able to function at a level that you needed to, then you're not going to be of much help to anyone else. So as crazy as it may sound, I would say be selfish, take time for yourself, make sure that you're right, and that you're ready, because I think, you're thrown into circumstances that you would not have thought, 6-12 months ago that would even be possible. And you're running scenarios and situations that are incredibly difficult, and you're making complex decisions with not much information. To be able to do that effectively, I think you need to be, you need to be really centered, I think, in yourself. And where I found that the most helpful, I think, is actually going into lockdown was easier than I anticipated, and there were some great frameworks and information to go through. It's actually more complicated and complex coming out of lockdown and going back to a return of play place, and the uncertainty around restart. So you're looking, and I think once you look after yourself, and enables you to look after others, and being part of a team is a really important part of that.
Christina will give you the final word.
Thank you. I think health and well-being becomes the ultimate important thing for us, and also positive attitude is where we can go through different situations. So no matter it's COVID-19 or whatever come along, so positive attitude is always a thing comes first.
Well, thank you so much. We've been speaking to Joe Hitchcock, Chief Executive of Badminton New Zealand, and Christina Yu, newly established board member at Badminton as well. Thank you both for your time this afternoon. Ka kite anō.
Kia ora, thanks.